Welcome to Materializing Text from Paper to Pixels. This presentation was created for the Going Deeply Digital Conference at Nova Southeastern University on February 17th, 2019. Materializing Text is a prototype curriculum that goes deeply digital on two levels. First, it's presented to students in multimodalities, and second, it teaches students computer literacy across a wide range of software applications. This course loosely mimics a digital publishing production workflow, from story to design to photography to layout, resulting in a class that teaches students to create digital media in a way that is comprehensive yet efficient. The class was created by drawing on my extensive experience as a technology manager in the publishing industry. So why a primary research project? A primary research project starts the course by empowering students to choose a subject and an image of wide scope. An image of wide scope is a principle of Gregory Ulmer's electracy pedagogy, in which students select a core image to guide their creativity. In this way, students are put in control of their learning experience because software can be hard to learn. With content decisions made separately, students can focus on learning one thing at a time, and there's a lot of ground to cover in this application. We begin by learning typesetting through Microsoft Word, and then proceed to vector graphics in Adobe Illustrator. We then proceed to photography through Adobe Photoshop and put all the pieces together in InDesign. And finally, students bring their text and their images into the digital world by creating a fully digital presentation. So how do I teach all this material in one course? I do that by stripping the applications all the way back to their fundamental functions. This is what the applications looked like back in the day when I learned them. And when these applications first came out, they were much less complicated and complex than they are today. However, the principles behind the creation of these two applications still hold. Scholar Todd Taylor says that you can basically use 2 to 4 tools in each application to get about 90% of your work done, at least at first. And I agree with Taylor. By figuring out the fundamental purposes of these applications, you can then figure out which 2 to 4 tools are the most vital. So let's take a look at some sample content that was created for the course. To set the deeply digital tone of the course, students first encounter an electronic syllabus. This syllabus is available as an interactive PowerPoint presentations where students would be able to click through and receive feedback from their clicks, and it would also be available as a YouTube video. Now, in creating the instructional modules for the class, I really struggled with the difference between teaching and training. As a professional IT manager, I have a lot of experience in training. As a graduate student, one of my first classes was teaching writing, where the professor asked us to reflect on what teaching meant to us. And the only thing I could think of was all my experience in training. Now I know that there's a big difference between teaching and training, and the tension between those two modes of instruction really informed the selection of the presentation software for the different modules in the class. So, what's training? Training is a transfer of knowledge from expert to student. To enact that training pedagogy, I created quick lessons. Quick lessons are simple, very straightforward knowledge transfer lessons. The one that was created for the prototype is a quick lesson in typography. These quick lessons are optimized for viewing on cell phones because more and more students want to do their homework on their cell phones. And I think this is a trend that should be supported rather than struggled against. The second type of screencast demonstrations straddle the space between teaching and training. They are YouTube style how to videos designed to be homework that students post a before image and then an after image to the learning management system. The thing that separates these video how-tos from simple training exercises is that as I'm demonstrating the lessons, I am also contextualizing them and telling students why things work the way they do and why it's important to make these decisions the way they did. Most importantly, these screencast how-to demonstrations allow students to learn at their own pace. Learning software is hard. Some students are going to catch on very quickly, and other students are going to want to mull over all of this material. And they should be allowed to do that without feeling stressed or judged by classmates who may want to jet through the material. And those students who are catching on very quickly are not feeling stymied and frustrated. By the time students get into the classroom, everyone should have a relatively equal baseline of knowledge so that teaching can take place in the classroom through generative conversations facilitated by the instructor that lead to deep learning. The final piece of content in the prototype is a Wakelet board. Wakelet is a Pinterest type interface where content can be aggregated for the course. Caligaris found through her research that students showed an increased aptitude in the subject matter just by interacting with different media. The internet is rife with rich media created by experts in the field. With the Wakelet board, instructors can mine all that material and make it available to their students because creating course content is very time consuming for instructors. The next couple of slides are going to offer a couple of ideas at how to streamline that process. The first thing an instructor could do would be to select an image of wide scope. In the same way that this image guides a student's creativity, it can also guide an instructor's creativity. Corporations call this branding, and branding allows for the shortcutting of visual material. It just sort of jumpstarts your creative process. Scott Warnock suggests that teachers will or should develop a vast pool of carefully crafted communications. One way to enact that idea would be to create an image library. Whenever you need to find an image and you do your Creative Commons search, you'll always run across a handful of images that you really like that you may not be able to use. If you download them as you come across them and store them in this academic image library, whenever you need to create a piece of visual media for a class, you'll have an already curated library of materials. So instead of your search taking 90 minutes on the internet, it'll take 5 minutes through your customized image library. Another thing you could do is create module materials. This is an image of the Apollo lunar landing module. In the same way that this landing module detaches itself from the mothership and lands on the moon to perform its activities, you can create content that can be detached from your overall course mothership and applied to other courses. For example, the prototype lesson that was created to process images can be applied to any composition class that requires a piece of visual rhetoric be created by students for print. So, for example, if you're in a Comp 1000 class and your final project is to create a flyer or a poster, you could have those students in your Comp 1000 class watch that module. And finally, create a personal workflow. Every semester, professors or instructors have a battery of tasks they need to complete. By identifying the repetitive tasks and codifying them, you can create a workflow. And in that workflow, identify areas where you could create greater efficiency. Savigny suggests that any investment made in systematically planning and organizing online courses will pay off in multiple measures. I quote a lot of online scholars in this presentation because they spend most of their time in the digital space. That brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for watching.